Now, given that he will be 28 by the start of next season, I was unsure initially about Manchester United signing Ademola Lookman, but after considering that he only has 1 year left on his contract at Atalanta, at that point I started to like it more. But what convinced me was looking at his FBref report over the past 365 days, and I think when I show you it in a minute, you'll come to the same conclusion as me. And that conclusion is that Manchester United should probably offer around £20 million for Lookman in the summer, probably pay around £25 million, a maximum of 30. But later on I'll break down the cost and the unorthodox deal I would look to do with Atalanta, but first let's get straight into Lookman's FBref report. Before I break down why I think he'd be a tactical fit for Amorim's system, what he'd bring to the United side, why it took him till his mid-20s to develop to this level, and what other examples of players are there who have peaked late, and what can be learned from these particular players. But before I go any further, if you want any cheap current season or retro jerseys, go over to dragonjersey.com. I'll leave a link in the comment section and description. They've got a variety of different jerseys, and we'll have the 25-26 season jerseys when they do come out later on in the year. Out of all the jerseys, I do like this 1988 Borussia Dortmund one, as well as a 91-92 AC Milan home shirt as well. If you do want to get in touch with them and discuss any shirts, delivery times or things like that, they've got their WhatsApp and email on the site, but you can also follow their Instagram as well. So once again, I'll leave it linked in the description and the comment section in case you do want to check it out after this video. So statistically over the past 365 days, Lookman is looking absurd. I personally would define Lookman as an attacking midfielder or a winger, but even when you compare him to forwards, his goal scoring and his creative output looks impressive. He ranks in the 93rd percentile for his non-penalty goals compared against forwards, and the top 1%, the 99th percentile when compared against attacking midfielders and wingers, also sitting in the 95th percentile for his non-penalty XG when compared against them as well, which he's overperforming massively by 0.23 per 90, which probably is unsustainable in the mid to long term, but it shows how clinical Lookman has been, and the fact that he still records a non-penalty XG of 0.45 per 90 suggests to me that he's still going to be able to create and get into goal scoring positions, even if his XG overperformance doesn't persist. Against attacking midfielders, he ranks in the mid 80th percentiles for his expected assists, his XG assisted, and his key passes. And whilst his progressive passing metrics look around average, for a forward he's still an exceptional progressive passer, but I think this is a big part of why Lookman has developed to the overall level he is at, and that's because he's refined and simplified his game. His improvement hasn't really come in his ball carrying or dribbling substantially, but mainly because of his goal scoring and creating output, which I think is mainly because of his age and experience, which is my biggest case against people who don't want to sign anyone over the age of 26 because they completely miss the point. Just because a player hasn't been at the elite level for pretty much any of their career prior to a year or so ago, this doesn't mean that they aren't at the level now, and just because a young player at 20 or 21 is showing huge potential, it doesn't mean they're going to reach it, let alone reach it in their early 20s. And it's Lookman's composure in pressurised situations and confidence that has improved, and that has led him to becoming more clinical in front of goal, and we can see this reflected in his overall output, with him hitting 14 goals and 7 assists in 27 games in all competitions, which is even more impressive once you factor in that he really only plays on average around 70 minutes per game, and also once you consider that he seems to be improving further, having hit 17 goals and 10 assists in 45 games last season. But it's not just his goal scoring where he's looking outstanding, but also his progressive carrying, where he ranks very highly even when compared against attacking midfielders. But he would also offer Amorim's side something very unique that would aid us in breaking down deeper defensive units. So what exactly is this unique attribute that Lookman would offer Amorim's system? Well, it's the reason why a lot of people look at Jadon Sancho and think he would have been the perfect fit for Amorim's system as a left-sided interior forward, and I can kind of see why, but the same applies to Lookman. But with Lookman you get a player who is far more decisive, clinical, has more pace, and is a better goal scorer and creator. See, like Sancho, Lookman is fantastic in tight and congested areas, having the perfect balance between speed, ball control and flair, and capable of using his quick footwork to wrong foot and float past players in the final third and around the box, and this would massively aid Amorim's side against deeper defensive blocks, when the space to work in is minimal, with Amorim needing interior forwards like Lookman who can receive the ball between the lines immediately under pressure and not just retain possession and link play, but also provide some cutting edge in and around the box, and Lookman has proven over the last 18 months, both in Serie A and in Europe, that he's more than capable of doing this. But now we come on to how much Lookman would potentially cost. Now, considering Atalanta had a net positive transfer spend of around £8 million in the summer, down from summer 2023's, which was close to £70 million in the positive, and the previous season, which was a net negative of around £10 million as well. You would think that come this summer, considering they would be losing him on a free in the summer of 2026, if you have any sort of competent negotiator, surely Atalanta could definitely be negotiated down to about £25 million, maybe with some add-ons on top. But United could even maybe secure a lower fee of around £20 to £22 million if they were willing to add on some speculative clauses like over 10 Premier League goals a season, trophies or Premier League titles, to take it up to like £35 to £37 million, which may be worth it for Atalanta and Manchester United in the long run, as well as the short run as well. But now we come on to the curious case of Ademola Lookman, a player who went from unfulfilled potential to a late bloomer. So what about this theory? What if unlocking a footballer's potential isn't just about talent, but timing, environment and reinvention? Enter Ademola Lookman, the winger whose career has been a rollercoaster of promise, stagnation and also redemption. But in order to understand Lookman, we need to answer these three questions. Why did Lookman stagnate earlier on in his career despite his potential? What caused his sudden improvement in his mid-20s? And what can clubs, coaches and players learn from Ademola Lookman's development? So in the early years, Ademola Lookman's talent was undeniable. At Charlton Athletic, he dazzled with pace, dribbling and goals, earning him a move to Everton in 2017. But despite a debut goal against Manchester City, he struggled to establish himself at Goodison Park. Loan spells to RB Leipzig and Fulham followed, but consistency eluded him. And by his early 20s, Lookman was at a crossroads, a player with talent but no clear path to fulfilling it. So what went wrong? Why did such a promising player falter in the Premier League and at RB Leipzig? Well, the first answer is that he was a tactical misfit. At Everton, Lookman was often used as a traditional winger, expected to hog the touchline and mainly create through his crossing, and this didn't suit his strengths, cutting inside, linking play and driving at defenders in and around the box. And also at that point in his career at RB Leipzig, he struggled to adapt to the Red Bull style of high pressing, high intensity and all round a faster paced game. But also a second reason is that he lacked confidence. Inconsistent playing time and unconvincing performances eroded Lookman's confidence, which led to him being less composed and decisive in goal scoring and goal creating positions, as we do see from him now. So what exactly was the turning point that led to Lookman's renaissance? Well, in 2022, Lookman joined Atalanta in Serie A and everything changed. Under Gianpiero Gasperini, he found a system and a role that unlocked his potential. But what was the cause of his sudden improvement? Well, the first was that he was a tactical fit. Gasperini's 3-4-3 system was perfect for Lookman. Playing as an interior forward in the front three, he was able to cut inside from the left and link play, moving in field between the lines into central positions, wherefrom he was able to get into more optimal positions in order to create chances and score goals, while still being able to utilise his close ball control when it came to dribbling in congested areas. The second was his confidence and freedom. At Atalanta, Lookman was given the freedom to express himself, not having to track back as deep because of the 5 at the back defensive shape, and so was therefore able to remain higher out of possession. Despite Gasperini also using a high pressing style, Lookman was given more time to be coached in that role that he was set to play than he was at RB Leipzig. And it also has to be factored in that the slower pace in Serie A also gave him more time on the ball, which boosted his confidence and so allowed him to develop in a way that he probably wouldn't have been able to do at that time in his career if he was in a faster paced league like the Premier League or the Bundesliga. But thirdly, as is the case with a lot of players, it was also down to his maturity and experience, as now in his mid-20s, Lookman was more physically and mentally developed, and therefore better prepared for top-level football. He'd learned from his past struggles and he'd used them to grow and improve. But before I come on to the two different roles I think Lookman could play in Amorim's tactical setup, let's look at some more late bloomers throughout football history, analysing why and how they were able to develop so significantly later on in their career. So the obvious case study to start with is Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy's rise from non-league football to Premier League champion is the stuff of legends, but what caused his sudden development and why didn't it happen earlier? Well, Vardy's breakthrough came at Leicester under Claudio Ranieri. Prior to that, he had initially got his move to Leicester in the summer of 2012. Having scored 31 goals in 36 National League games for Stevenage the season before. But even during his first season in the Championship with Leicester, at the age of 25 and 26, he only scored 5 goals in 29 games. However, it was only in 2015 at Leicester where he found a system that played to his strengths. Intense pressing, quick transitions and direct attack in play. It was a perfect tactical fit. Ranieri's 4-4-2 system was perfect for Vardy. He was able to play as more of an advanced forward or kind of like a poacher, alongside a more static target man or a deeper line forward, where he was able to use his pace and work rate in order to stretch defences and create chaos. The system didn't just suit Vardy, it was tailor-made to his strengths. And so Vardy's story shows the importance of finding the right tactical fit and environment. Clubs need to identify players' strengths and build systems around them. Players meanwhile need to be patient and persist even when the odds are stacked against them, and wait for that right opportunity under the right manager. Now the second player is another striker, Luca Toni. Luca Toni was 28 when he won the Serie A Golden Boot with Fiorentina in 2006. But prior to that, he'd bounced around Serie A and Serie B, only really having a breakout season in 03-04, where for Palermo in Serie B, he hit 30 goals in 45 games. The next season when Palermo will get promoted, he scored 20 goals in 35 Serie A games, which would earn him a move to Fiorentina in the 2005-2006 season, where he would score 31 goals in 38 league games, winning the European Golden Boot and being the first Italian player to do so. And so the breakthrough in Luca Toni's career, which took him to an elite level forward, came under the management of Cesare Prandelli at Fiorentina. At Fiorentina, he found a system that maximised his physicality and aerial ability. Prandelli's 4-3-3 system used Toni as a target man, with the wingers heavily focused on providing early crosses and the midfielders supporting the attack from deep. Toni thrived in this role, using his strength and positioning to dominate defenders. And like with Jamie Vardy, Toni's story highlights the importance of tactical fit. And whilst with Vardy this meant embracing his pace, with Toni it meant embracing his physicality and aerial ability. But you could argue that the third player on this list was arguably the best in terms of their peak, and that's Diego Milito, who was 30 when he led Inter Milan to a historic treble in 2010. But prior to that, at clubs like Genoa and Zaragoza, he'd been a solid but unspectacular striker. So what changed? Well, Milito's breakthrough came under Jose Mourinho at Inter Milan. Mourinho's system was built around Milito's intelligence and movement, using him as the focal point of the attack. Mourinho's 4-2-3-1 system used Milito as the lone striker, with Wesley Sneijder playing behind and Eto'o playing from one of the flanks, or on some occasions alongside Milito when Mourinho did switch to a 4-4-2 diamond. And Milito thrived in this role, scoring 30 goals in 52 games in all competitions, including 2 goals in the Champions League final. Now before I come on to how Lookman would fit into Amorim's tactical setup, a quick reminder, I do have an in-game Instagram group chat where for $5 a month you can sign up and you can read the discussions that we have during the Manchester United games and throughout other games as well, such as the Real Madrid-Man City Champions League game. But for $1.50 a month you can sign up and get access to my unreleased articles. I've got one on Mourinho prior to Porto, Luis Campos at Monaco, the Juventus doping scandal and things like that, so go over there and check it out. You can get a 7-day free trial on that one. And I'll leave the Patreon linked in all the usual places, the eye above, description, comment section, and on the end screen after the video. So like Vardy and Ranieri's 4-4-2, Luca Toni under Prandelli and Milito under Mourinho, would Lookman suit the role that he would play in Amorim's system? Well, in the build-up phase, the role of the two players either side of the centre forward is to create and exploit space. And this is why I don't like to refer to these roles as number 10s, because certainly in the build-up phase, their movements are far more like inside forwards or even wingers than they are like number 10s, which is why I think a better description of this role is as an interior forward, because they are more like forwards who move in field, and this is why, when United have the ball in the defensive third, Amorim wants these two players either side of the centre forward to drop into these spaces. Now I think he should initially have them starting high and wide, and then dropping into the space once the ball is active, as I just think it causes the opposition fullbacks a lot more issues than if they are just starting in these deep and narrow areas. And this is because if they initially drop when the ball goes out to one of the wide centre-backs, the left side in this example where Lookman would be, Lookman can now move towards the ball, dragging the fullback high and narrow, creating the space ahead in the channel, and then without standing statically he can then quickly spin, look to take advantage of the fullback's forward movement to spin in behind him, looking to get goal side to then receive a long ball into the channel, with Xerxes now dropping into that space that the two interior forwards create, not just looking to receive the ball to feet, but also maybe to drag a centre-back high and simultaneously create space for those players running ahead of him. Now this is not what is expected of a traditional number 10, because usually a number 10 like an Ozil or a Riquelme is not going to have the acceleration to spin their marker and drive into the space. But Lookman, because from a stylistic point of view, even though he's not a winger, he's closer to being a winger than he is a natural number 10. In the build-up phase, whether this is him receiving the ball to feet, in behind the midfield line's press, or spinning into the channel, I think Lookman suits this role perfectly, a lot better than a traditional number 10. However, in the middle third, Lookman would be required to play more like a number 10 than a winger, picking up a position in the left-sided half space, Wherefrom United should be looking to thread those midfield splitting passes into his feet for him to then receive the ball, turn and play forward, but this is the reason why I think the two interior forwards need to have acceleration, because in this example where Lookman's able to turn with the ball in the half space, if Xerxes drops off from one of the centre backs, this is likely going to force one of the centre backs to step up with him, which in turn is then going to create that space for the interior forward on the other side, Ahmad in this example, to make a diagonal run in behind the back line, looking for Lookman to find him with a through ball. And if this is Ahmad receiving the ball to feet on the right side, Lookman also has the acceleration to make this same darting run ahead of Xerxes that Ahmad is making in this example, and so that's why I think Lookman does suit this role very well. Because he, like Ahmad, aren't traditional number 10s, they're more like hybrids between wingers and advanced playmakers, what I personally would refer to as either an inside or an interior forward. But the area where I think Lookman would improve United the most would be with Dorgu behind him, and this is where I think Amorim could implement a slight tactical variation. For example, when the ball is on the right side, rather than having Lookman narrow in the half space and Dorgu holding the width on the outside, Lookman could be the one to hold a high and wide position, whilst Dorgu initially starts more central. And the advantage of this is that when United are able to use a quick switch of play, finding Lookman on the left side, Dorgu can utilise his athleticism to run off the opposition's right-sided midfielder, looking to create a 2v1 with Lookman against the opposition's fullback, wherefrom because Lookman is right-footed rather than Dorgu being left-footed, naturally the balance just makes a lot more sense with Dorgu the left footer providing the pace down the outside and Lookman able to cut inside onto his right. But Lookman is also going to be far better in this type of situation than Garnacho, able to use his close ball control and ball carrying ability to drive at the fullback, waiting for the defender to either engage, opening up the space for him to find Dorgu down the outside, or alternatively if the fullback drops off with Dorgu's run, Lookman can now cut inside into that space and look to create on his right foot. And Lookman's pass selection, close control dribbling and end product in the final third is vastly superior to Garnacho's at the moment, which alongside his ability to operate in congested central areas and utilising his pace to spin into the channels in the build-up phase, in my opinion makes him the perfect stylistic fit for that interior or inside forward role in Amorim's front three. So overall, if United could get Lookman for between £20 to £25 million, and even though he will be 28 by the start of next season, as I've shown with players like Vardy, Luca Toni and Milito, he could play into his early 30s at the age of 32 and 33 and maybe even get better than he currently is. So let me know what you think of Lookman in the comment section. Also, if you do want to check out any of the cheap football jerseys, I'll leave that linked in the description and in the comment section below. And if you do want to sign up to my in-game Instagram group chat or read some of my unreleased articles, I'll leave my Patreon linked on the end screen now.